Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Holiday para sa marami pero dito tuloy-tuloy ang balitaan. We keep you company as always until 3 p.m. Ako po si Denise Tan.
Crispy pata. Saya niya, oh. Okay, ako naman po si Lourdes Vera, taxpayer na kagaya po ninyo. The Filipino is worth dying for, sabi dati ni Ninoy Aquino. Sabi naman ng mga kawatan na nasa DPWH at Kongreso, the Filipino is worth stealing from. Ano? Habang binabaha tayo naliligo sa pera ang mga diablo dahil sa mga proyektong multo gamit ang perang kinakaltas sa sweldo mo. Pinaghirapan mo pati na rin ang tax ng ng ina nyo. Nakakainit ang ulo at mahirap maging polite. Buti na lang merong afternoon delight. Busy ba tayo ngayon, partner?
Kinabahan ako dun sa dulo. No?
Sa?
Dulo ng intro mo.
Tax ng mother and father.
Oh, at least tayo, kinakabahan tayo. Yung iba, hindi kinakabahan sa mga pinagagawa nila.
Sana
no?
magka-nervyos naman yung, yung iba. Grabe pa yung relo ng isa. Richard Mille.
Lantaran. Naku.
Magkano yun?
Milyon yun.
Milyon.
Oo.
Diyos ko, tapos
Ganun-ganun na lang.
papatalo lang sa casino, no?
Mga, hundreds of millions daw kung magpatalo.
Grabe. Palibasa, hindi mo pere, no? Sana hindi. Ay. Sabi ko sana all. Huwag ganon.
Oo, wag ganon.
Pero dami mga bagong soundbites kahapon, ha?
Oo, di ba?
Umaaray ang mga taga-arayat.
Oo, gusto ko yun.
Hindi nauna ang mga taga-nauhan. Ano pa ba? Hello, Darcy.
Oo, gusto ko yung pagkakasingit nun. At saka yung yung importante sabi, hindi daw kailangan ng flood control, kundi greed control.
Ay, nako.
Diba?
Wala yatang ganun, eh.
Dahil ang daming nilista ni Senator Lacson kahapon.
Alam mo, kung nakikinig lang sila noon pa, no, sa Senado rin sinabi itong mga words na ito ng isang inimbestigan. Moderate your greed.
Ayun.
Kaya yung mga hindi makamoderate ng greed, moderetso sa impyerno. Ika nga nila. Crispy pata. Saya-saya na talaga. Okay, sa mga gusto pong pasayahin si Denise Tan, banggitin niyo lang po sa harap niya ang word na crispy pata.
Oo, sige, mamaya. Mamaya kasi yan ang ating okay, mamaya natin pag-usapan yan. But again, as mentioned, today is Thursday, August 21st. And as we said also, it is a holiday today. We remember the 42nd death anniversary of former Senator Benigno Aquino Jr. or Ninoy Aquino to many. And to mark this very important day in Philippine history, there were events held in Ninoy's honor. First was a wreath-laying activity at the NAIA Terminal 1 led by the National Historical Commission of the Philippines. Ninoy's nephew, Senator Bam Aquino, was also there. Bam's message partly reads, "Ngayong araw sa Ninoy Aquino International Airport Terminal 1, ginunita natin anibersaryo ng pagpaslang kay Ninoy Aquino, isang pangyayaring bumago sa direksyon ng ating kasaysayan at nagpatibay ng ating laban para sa demokrasya." Sa paliparang ito, nakita at pinatunayan ni Tito Ninoy na the Filipino is worth dying for. There was also a mass at the Manila Memorial Park in Parañaque where Ninoy, his wife, and son former Presidents Cory and Noynoy Aquino are also buried.
Partner, 1983, buhay ka ba nito? Buhay ka na ba?
Uy, hindi pa.
Hindi pa?
Hindi pa.
Crispy pata. Buhay, hindi ka pa buhay, pero ako naalala ko, ako 8 years old niyan, 8 ba 7. Alam ko may problema kasi yung lolo ko, na usually maingay at maraming opinion, maraming sinasabi. For the first time, sa harap ng telebisyon, wala sumasabi. I think it was utter shock. Tapos nakita ko, pagkatapos noon, medyo hanggang paggabi na, meron kaming coffee table na Nara. Very solid na kahoy yun, of course. Siniksik niya o pinagkasya niya yung kanyang malaking katawan doon at doon natulog sa ibabaw ng Nara. Sa harap ng TV, hindi ko alam kung bakit. Pero alam ko lang, something was wrong. Parang ganun.
Kasi hindi
yung may
magsasalita.
energy na pero for the first time ko, sa bata akong edad, naramdaman ko na, okay, may pinanood siya sa TV at may apektado siya. Eventually, after several years, may naririnig kang mga pagkilos after 3 years, mga pagkilos doon sa malikod bahay namin, papuntang sa EDSA, sa may Aguinaldo at Crame. At kung Senado pag-uusapan natin, of course, yung mga expose na mga ganyan, si Senador Ninoy Aquino, ang napakarami nun mga exposes, marami mga privileged speech na binibigay sa Senate. At isa sa mga unang nag-warn against yung Oplan Sagittarius, yung impending martial law. Yun nga lang, siya isa rin sa mga pinakaunang nasa listahan. Nasa YouTube yung kanyang speech sa LA noon. Doon mo makikita talaga what we had. Yung supposedly talagang napaka-galing ng speech. Parang kombinasyon siya ng rhetoric, yung mga patawa, mga tito jokes, tapos may seryoso talaga na parang wow.
Correct me if I'm wrong, ito ba yung parang minention niya na rin na uuwi siya? Diba? I think I've seen that oo. Yung may mga sinabi siya doon na alam niya yung risk kapag umuwi siya.
Yeah, he was warned, nasabihan siya na, at sinabi niya rin sa camera yun na anytime soon that you have to be ready with your cameras.
Yes,
in a split second, maring hindi siya nagkamali doon, ano? At kung sino pa rin ang nasa likod ng kanyang assassination, hanggang ngayon talagang wala pa rin napipinpoint at may talaga ebidensya ng mastermind. Although, if you follow the trail, pwede niyong panoorin mga kapatid ang episode po ng History with Lourdes tungkol sa Ninoy Aquino assassination. Diyan po hinimay natin yung mga posibleng mga nasa likod ng... Kasi brutal to eh. Sa harap ng lahat, isipin mo, bumababa ng eroplano, wala nang mas public pa.
And to think na sinabi niya mismo na alam niyang may mangyayari. Yung iba, siguro magdadalawang isip na, teka lang, masyadong ang publicized if ever may mangyari. Pero ayun pa rin ang kinalabasan.
Oh, grabe. Makita mo nun. At talagang brutal talaga yung... very crudely done. Yung pusila, Bisaya pa talaga yung mga nag-escort at napakaraming we can spend an entire month sa episode, sa programa ko just talking about aspects of it and yung mga sumunod na mga pangyayari. Pero alam niyo ba kung nasaan ano ginagawa ng immortal na Juan Ponce Enrile noong 1983?
Pakita natin.
Of course, ay defense minister pa noon. Pero, bang! Siguro, hindi ko alam yung mga nasa tabi, pero yung picture na yan, lahat halos, including the former Vice President Salvador Doy Laurel, ang pumanaw noong 2004 yata, kung di ako nagkakamali, sa California, Wala na yan. Pero si JPE, tingnan mo. At maraming teorya kasi because hindi raw style ng mga nung mga nakaupo or people in power at that time ang assassination. Lalo na something as crude and as brutal. Although, yung chief of staff, pwede pa, sabi nila. Okay, moving on.
Okay. President Bongbong Marcos also had a message for Ninoy Aquino Day. The chief executive's statement goes, the commemoration of Ninoy Aquino Day brings to light a chapter in our nation's shared story that continues to echo across generations in public memory. The passage of time has allowed the country to approach this event with greater clarity and, therefore, with a deeper perspective. History invites reflection more than reaction, and from that reflection arises a clearer understanding of civic duty. Over the years, the Philippines has undergone a profound transformation, one defined by a broader public discourse about power, memory, and citizenship. These transitions unfolded in moments when individuals chose to meet history with resolve. As someone raised within a political tradition formed by these moments, I have come to understand that history offers less final judgment than continuing instruction. It sharpens how we serve, how we listen, and how we bear the weight of an office with a greater purpose moving forward.
Hindi pa tapos. This day, therefore, becomes an invitation to govern with sobriety, conscience, and foresight. Our commemoration achieves meaning when the lessons of the past are reflected in our actions and in the moral architecture of institutions. In honoring this day, the Republic signals its readiness to uphold leadership that strives towards wholeness and reconciliation. And through its observance, we advance the work of statecraft, disciplined, steady, and shaped by the enduring imperative to choose peace above quarrel and dignity beyond differences. May we all have a solemn and meaningful remembrance. Okay, translate mo sa Tagalog yun, partner. Yan po. Signed, the President of the Philippines. May imagine mo, noong 1986, 1983, mga bagay-bagay, aabot tayo dito.
Ayun na nga eh.
Ano yung ka pinanganak? Siyempre, wag mo dapat sagutin yan. Di ba? Pero may isang nagba-birthday din ngayon.
Oh.
Maliban sa death anniversary. Sabihin lang natin, 2004 si Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, yung nagpirma, ginawa niya ng special non-working holiday ang August 21. I think it was the 21st anniversary ng pagkamatay ni Ninoy. Batiin lang natin, dati natin kasamahan sa kabila, si Ginoong Martin Andanar. Happy birthday, Mart.
Happy birthday, sir.
Ang dating PCO chief, Martin Andanar.
Okay, and again, it's not only Ninoy Aquino Day that President Marcos remembers today. It's also the 66th birthday of his First Lady, Liza Araneta Marcos. Ang sabi ng Pangulo sa kanyang Facebook post, "Happy birthday to my first and only Lady Liza. You have been my partner through everything, a loving mother to our boys, a brilliant lawyer and teacher, and now a tireless First Lady who gives so much of herself to others. Thank you for all that you do and all that you are. We love you very much."
Ano kaya regalo ng Pangulo sa First Lady, ano?
Ano kayang regalo nila kapag mga...
Kasi yung AirPods yan, ang regular nila. Magpapatuyo akong tulay sa probinsya mo.
Grabe!
Ganon, di ba?
Oo.
Okay, now... Anong regalo? Alright, now on to the news. There was no bigger bombshell yesterday than revelations. The revelation of Senator Ping Lacson. In case you missed it, here are some of the highlights from that much talked about privilege speech.
For ordinary Filipinos, every flood drowns not just their homes, but their lives and livelihoods. But for some, every surge of floodwaters becomes an opportunity to pocket millions from government coffers. A shocking revelation and a staggering expose on corruption unveiled by Senator Ping Lacson. A long list of ghost flood control projects funded by government, yet with no trace of actual construction.
Halos pare-pareho ang pattern kung paano minamasaker ng mga kawatan ang pondo ng bayan. May ilan pa ngang proyekto, hindi man lang nagtira para sa taong bayan. Ang tawag ng Pangulong Marcos dito, guni-guni o ghost projects.
According to Lacson, corruption is systematic, carefully divided among key players. This is how taxpayers' money is siphoned off. For example, a project worth 100 million pesos. After taxes and insurance, only 82 million remains. 8 to 10% goes as kickback to the DPWH district engineer, 5 to 6% to the Bids and Awards Committee, up to 1% to a commission and audit official, and up to 6% as a so-called parking fee or royalty for the politician controlling the district. When the cuts are done, only 35 to 40 million is left for the actual project.
20 to 25% ang karaniwang napupunta sa funder o project proponent na politiko. Ang matitirang pondo para sa pagpapatayo ng proyekto ay napakaswerte ng umabot sa 40%.
Lacson's team inspected questionable projects on the ground. In Arayat, Pampanga, the same dike has been repeatedly funded and repeatedly damaged. In La Union, the Mawang River Basin Flood Management Program ballooned to nearly 1 billion pesos under the 2024 budget, despite being allocated just 100 million in the National Expenditure Program. In Oriental Mindoro, a congressman allegedly took ownership of a project using unprogrammed funds. The lawmaker in question was 1st District Representative Arnan Panaligan.
Masalimuot ang proseso ng paggamit ng unprogrammed appropriations under the Special Purpose Fund. Ano kaya ang taglay na agimat ni Congressman?
But Lacson said Bulacan is the most notorious for kickbacks in flood control. In Malolos, one project built back in 2018 was still funded again in 2021, 2023, and 2024. Another was rebuilt in 2023 but with substandard.
Paulit-ulit ang pagpopondo kahit gawa na. Bagong style ito, Mr. President. Ilan pa kayang flood control projects ang ganito?
Lacson also named former district engineers Henry Alcantara and Bryce Hernandez, who he claimed valued money more than public service.
Sa District Engineering Office na ito, sa ilalim ng pamumuno ng dalawang nabanggit na opisyal, para sa taong 2024, 28 proyekto ang pare-pareho ang pondo kahit magkakaiba ang specs, disenyo at haba. Ang isa sa kanila ay nakakapagpatalo ng 100 milyon sa isang kasino dito sa Metro Manila.
In Hagonoy, another scheme emerged, the so-called distinct budget, identical project cost, different projects, like a 77.9 million peso riverbank protection structure, priced exactly the same as another flood control project under the same contractor, Darcy and Anna Builders. Projects that vanished like ghosts. And not just the projects, sometimes even the contractors. Lacson's team went to the registered addresses of these firms, only to find a gym and an e-payment store instead. Another contractor, Wawa Builders, was tagged for a ghost project in Barangay San Nicolas.
Sa historical imagery ng lugar na walang nabago simula pa noong 2017. So, anong tinayo ng Wawa Builders noong 2023? Di wala. Wow na wow ang wawaw.
Lacson said he is ready to submit evidence to back up all his revelations.
And amid calls for him to resign or take a leave of absence, Public Works Secretary Manny Bonoan is staying put. He believes he still has the trust and confidence of President Marcos, whom Bonoan says he is in constant communication with.
We have been talking actually about some of these projects, actually, especially those that are being inserted in the general appropriations with the President actually po, even before the SONA. And then I think these were already, this was included in the SONA of the President. And then he instructed us actually to verify this project. And right away, we dispatched our people to validate po yung mga lahat ng projects and fields.
The DPWH chief also believes anomalies in flood control projects are isolated in Bulacan.
I'm looking at all this project. It seems to me that it is an isolated case. It is only concentrated. All the information that we are gathering is just in one district, engineering district.
Meantime, in related news, Oriental Mindoro Representative Arnan Panaligan has categorically denied involvement in flood control projects in his district. He said he never received kickbacks or proposed any initiative of such kind nor spoke to any contractor. Here's the report.
Oriental Mindoro 1st District Representative Arnan Panaligan expressed sadness over his inclusion in Senator Panfilo Lacson's privileged speech on alleged irregularities in flood control projects.
Nakakalungkot naman at tayo ay nadawit sa speech na yon na hindi tayo nabigyan ng pagkakataon na makakuha yung ating side, ano?
In an interview with Storycon, Panaligan said that while flood control projects exist in his province due to its vulnerability to flooding, he had no role in identifying, designing, or awarding the contracts.
Ito, merong dumating na malaking amount na flood control projects starting 2023. Pero lahat pong yan ay ang DPWH ang nag-identify. Ang DPWH ang nag-plano, gawa ng program of works. Ang DPWH din ang nag-bid at nag-award sa contractors na mga proyektong yan.
He stressed that he was not a proponent of any flood control projects in his district.
Pero mga flood control na yan, hindi namin, ako sa experience ko, wala akong pinabago dyan. Kasi nga nandun na yan eh. Kasi kung babagoy mo, para sa mo dadalhin, sa mililipat na lugar, nandun na yan eh.
Panaligan also denied having personal ties with contractors mentioned in Lacson's speech, adding that he never received any form of kickback from the projects.
As a matter of policy, I do not talk or socialize with contractors. Kapag meron akong concern sa proyekto, katulad nga nung nakita ko nasira, ang highways na kinakausap ko lang, ang highways na sinusulatan ko because they are the implementing agency. silang concern dyan.
In a separate interview with a big story, the lawmaker also pushed for further investigation into such projects.
Mali ang structural design or tama ang design pero mali ang implementation. Kaya dapat talaga ay magkaroon ng malalim na investigasyon dyan at ipaliwanag ng DPWH Regional Office kung bakit nagkaganyan ang proyekto.
For News 5, I'm Marian Enriquez. We are One News.
Baguio City Mayor Benjamin Magalong has responded to what he believes were barbed remarks aimed at him by later Representative Richard Gomez. Magalong was saddened by the swipes of Gomez, who he considers a friend. The Baguio City Mayor had earlier tagged several congressmen to allegedly anomalous flood control projects.
Ay, sa tingin ko siguro baka ako yung tinutukoy. Kaya nakakalungkot lang. Magkaibigan kami. Kung sanay ka sa dark, sa madilim na lugar, mahirap ka talaga makakita ng maliwanag. Kaya ako na lang.
Magalong was referring to a post from Gomez which called out a mayor for making corruption allegations against lawmakers while his own city is facing serious problems. The actor turned politician also accused the unnamed mayor of, quote, making so much noise to generate headlines at the expense of all congressmen. Manila 2nd District Representative Rolando Valeriano agrees with his fellow legislator.
I have no problem with that kung ako yung magpapadrug testing. Pero since nang simula naman po yung issue niyan sa opisina niya, bakit hindi subukan niya rin na mag-drug testing yung buong opisina niya?
I think na-play yata yung maling video, no? Kasi tungkol sa drug testing yata yun. Anyway, time out muna. Marami akong kwento sa inyo. Magbabalik po ang Afternoon Delight.
This is AP News Minute. An Israeli military official says the country's top generals approved a plan to begin new operations in Gaza City. It would be in densely populated areas where the Palestinian militant group Hamas is active. On Tuesday, Qatar's foreign ministry said Hamas had a positive response to a ceasefire proposal from Arab countries. President Donald Trump offered assurances that U.S. troops will not be sent to defend Ukraine against Russia. On Monday, he didn't rule out the possibility. The Justice Department is investigating whether Washington, D.C. police officials falsified crime data. That's according to two people familiar with the probe. President Trump has declared a crisis in the city despite declining crime statistics. The U.S. East Coast could get high winds, large swells, and dangerous rip currents starting Wednesday. Hurricane Aaron's impact could be felt as far north as New England.
Ako po si Lourdes Vera, siya po si Denise Tan. The name of the show is Afternoon Delight. Thank you for staying with us. All right, on to the news. Rodrigo Duterte and his campus renewed their request for the former president's interim release from ICC detention. In a heavily redacted filing dated August 19, the defense team said that an undisclosed country is willing to host Duterte subject to any conditions deemed appropriate. It also reiterated that Digong poses no risk of flight, interference with witnesses, nor committing further crimes. The three main grounds for pretrial detention under the Rome Statute. The ICC's pretrial chamber earlier granted Duterte's request to suspend its ruling on an initial release bid while waiting for additional information. The former president's confirmation of charges is scheduled on the 23rd of September. All right.
Now, the Trump administration has imposed sanctions on 2 judges and 2 prosecutors of the International Criminal Court over cases involving the United States and Israel. This comes amid ICC arrest warrants for Israeli leaders and ongoing war crimes investigations involving Russia and Afghanistan. Secretary of State Marco Rubio called the court a national security threat and accused it of lawfare against both countries. For its part, the ICC condemned the move as a flagrant attack on its independence, while France and the United Nations urged Washington to lift the sanctions. The designated officials include Nicolas Yangilu, Nazat Shamim Khan, Mami Mandia Yenyang, and Kimberly Prost, all involved in cases linked to Israel and the U.S.
Meanwhile, siblings Vice President Sara and Kitty Duterte are in The Hague, in the Netherlands, to visit their detained father. And for updates, we have News 5 correspondent Bril Montalvo in Davao. Bril, kamusta ang pagdalaw nila sa kanilang ama?
Yes, Lord, tama ka nga dyan. Nasa The Hague, Netherlands nga si Vice President Sara Duterte at maging kanyang kapatida na si Kitty Duterte para dalawin ang kanilang amang si dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte nga nakakulong nga sa ICC detention facility. At sa post nga sa larawan na ipinost ni Kitty Duterte sa kanyang Instagram account ay magkasama sila ni Vice President Sara Duterte doon nga sa The Hague. At bago sila pumunta doon sa ICC detention facility ay nagpaunlak ito si Vice President Sara Duterte ng isang panayam sa isang supporters ng Duterte family, ito ngang si Alvin. At doon, maraming revelasyon nga si Vice President Sara Duterte ang kanyang sinabi hinggil sa mga issue na ipinupukol laban sa kanya. At isa na nga dito ang pagpalag ni Vice President Sara Duterte matapos ngang sabihin ng Malacanang na complete failure umano ang kanyang pamumuno sa Department of Education. At dagdag pa ng Vice Presidente, iba raw kasi ang sinasabi ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos noon. Kasi nga, during last year, June 19, 2024, nung nag-submit na siya ng irrevocable resignation kay Pangulong Bongbong Marcos doon mismo sa loob ng Malacanang sa isang meeting bilang DepEd Secretary, ang sabi ni PBBM ay hindi muna tinanggap ni PBBM ang kanyang irrevocable resignation. Bagkos, binigyan siya ng ibang posisyon at pinipili nga ito si VP Sara before na kung ano ang gusto niyang posisyon or meron ba siyang gusto pang posisyon sa gabinete aside nito nga pagiging DepEd Secretary. At ang sabi nga ni VP Sara, ang sagot niya kay PBBM ay wala na at hindi na daw siya magiging miyembro ng gabinete at magdidesidido na siya mag-resign sa gabinete ng administrasyon. At sabi pa ni VP Sara ay matagal na niyang pinag-isipan ang nasabing resignation niya bilang DepEd Secretary. May revelasyon naman din si VP Sara patungkol sa pakikinig nila ni PBBM doon nga sa Malacanang last June 19, 2024. At ang sabi ni VP Sara, bago naghiwalay ang kanilang cross ni PBBM ay nagbeso-beso umano si PBBM sa kanya at sabi ni VP Sara ay nangangamoy alak or nangangamoy whiskey daw ito si PBBM doon mismo sa loob ng Malacanang. At iginiit ni VP Sara na hindi daw palpak at hindi failure ang kanyang pagiging DepEd Secretary noon sa administrasyon ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos. Yun lang ang ilan sa mga pahayag ni VP Sara sa naging panayam sa kanya doon nga sa The Hague, Netherlands. Lord?
Wala bang ibang mga sinight na mga programa o yung mga accomplishments para masabing hindi complete failure yung kanyang termino? As according to sa palace spokesperson, yung termino niya bilang Education Secretary. May ganun bang mga pagsuporta sa kanyang deklarasyon na hindi raw complete failure yung kanyang termino?
Lord, yun nga ang pinanghahawakan ni Vice President Sara Duterte, kaya niya nasabi na hindi nga complete failure ito nga kanyang pag-upo bilang gabinete ng Department of Education or bilang kalihim ng Department of Education. Kasi nga, doon nga sa sinabi ni PBBM na ayaw tanggapin ni PBBM ang kanyang resignation at binibigyan pa siya ng ibang posisyon or inaalok pa siya ng ibang posisyon ni PBBM. So yun yung sinabi ni Vice President Sara Duterte.
May kuha si VP na dumaan ng Paris papuntang The Hague. Ano ba exactly? Meron bang opisyal o kumbaga formal na event doon sa Paris o dumaan lang para mamita mga kababayan?
Alam mo, Lord, matapos ang naging event ni Vice President Sara Duterte doon nga sa bansang Kuwait, ay pupunta na sana siya doon sa The Hague. Diretso na siya sa The Hague, Netherlands. But according sa kanya ay meron siyang 4 na oras na layover doon nga sa France bago diretso sa The Hague. So yun, in-invite siya. Sabi niya na in-invite lang siya sa mga Filipino community doon at biglaan yun ang pagtitipon ng mga Filipino community doon sa loob ng 4 na oras na layover ni Vice President Sara Duterte bago siya pumunta ng The Hague galing sa Kuwait. Lord?
Gusto mo ba itanong kung may nakahandang humba?
Actually, gusto ko nga kung kung
para sa Vice
meron ba siya
President?
mga ibang na-meet doon? Nakita ba sila? Real?
Pakiulit, Denise.
Hindi, okay. I'll just ask about the interaction between the Filipino community. Meron ba siya mga ipinangako or is she asking for continued support pa rin, I guess, for not just for her but her father who's in The Hague?
Partner, sundutan ko yan Kasi di ba, before nga daw doon sa pinaplano na yung pagpapakita, yung mobilization ng Pinoy community ron sa confirmation of charges na hearing,
Malapit na, oo.
Involved ba ang Vice President? Kasi kinikwento ni Atty. Harry Roque na kasama siya, may papel ba siya doon sa mobilization? May magtatalumpati ba? Paano bang dynamic, Bril?
Yes, alam niyo sa unang tanong ni Denise, yun nga, aside sa pasasalamat ni VP Sara sa mga Filipino community, ay yun yung sinabi ni VP Sara na hindi niya makakalimutan ang suporta ng mga Filipino community doon sa Kuwait, sa Paris, sa taus-pusong pagsuporta nila sa pamilya Duterte at walang sawang pagsuporta nga sa kabila ng mga issue na ipinupukol sa kanya. At pagdating niya nga doon sa dahig, at pagkatapos nilang bumisita nga ni Kitty Duterte sa kanyang ama, ay nakipagpulong umano si Vice President Sara Duterte sa mga abogado ni former President Rodrigo Duterte doon nga sa kanyang ICC case. Kaya kung mapapansin nyo, after ng pagdalaw nila ay si Kitty Duterte lang ang humarap sa Filipino community doon sa labas ng ICC detention facility sa Dahig, kasi nga itong si Vice President Sara Duterte ay dumiretso umano para makipagpulong doon nga sa mga abogado ni former President Digong.
Pero gaya din ba ni Hanilet, wala rin sila access si diretso doon na makita yung dating Pangulo?
Nakapasok sila doon sa loob ng ICC detention facility kasi nga hindi sila restricted doon kagaya ni Hanilet Avancenia. At yun din na hindi ipinagbabawal ito ngang pag-share ng pinag-usapan doon sa loob at yung hinggil nga dito sa kaso ni former President Rodrigo Duterte. So bawal itapik ito ngang mga kaso ni former President Rodrigo Duterte. Kaya minsan ang mga statement ni nila Kitty, nila VP Sara ay mga puro pasasalamat at mga update lang sa kalusugan ni Digong. Bawal sabihin yung update sa kanyang kaso sa ICC.
Alright. Wala na tayong oras, ano? Sayang. Tatanong ko pa na sana kung anong klase ba yung humba sa Davao. Okay, ang ating newswire correspondent sa Davao si Bril Montalvo. Thanks, Bril.
Now, in other news, the Department of Foreign Affairs says it has not received any extradition request from the U.S. for detained preacher Apollo Quiboloy. In a statement, the DFA clarified that Secretary Tess Lazaro has not received any or such document. The agency added Washington sent the request to the Department of Justice as earlier stated by the Philippine ambassador to the U.S., Babe Romualdez. Meantime, Quiboloy's legal counsel, attorney Israelito Torion, acknowledged that the U.S. may file a request under the two countries' extradition treaty. However, he said that a provisional arrest may not be necessary since Quiboloy is already in jail awaiting a decision on his motion for reconsideration. Torion also hopes that the Philippine government will allow local courts to fully exercise jurisdiction over Quiboloy's case before deciding on any extradition request.
Meanwhile, at the lower house, lawmakers opened sessions to tackle housing shortage and agriculture issues. And Mobile Journal Arles de los Santos reports. Arles.
Filipinos still lack access to adequate, affordable, and sustainable housing. That is the hook of the inaugural meeting of the 20th Congress's Committee on Housing and Urban Development. In her opening statement, Committee Chairperson Representative Maria Victoria Copilar emphasized the urgent need to ensure every Filipinos live in a safe, inclusive, and climate-resilient communities. She adds that housing and urban development is more than just infrastructure. It's about giving families the foundation to thrive. It can be recalled that in February 2025, the UN Habitat estimates that housing need in the Philippines is projected to increase from 6.5 million to 22 million by 2040. Popular also noted that the Urban Development and Housing Act, or UDHA, needs to be reviewed to ensure it remains responsive to evolving needs of Filipino communities.
At let's face it, ang housing is not only the problem of ISF or informal settlers. Housing ay problema rin ng mga empleyado ng gobyerno, empleyado na nagtatrabaho sa kumpanya na kailangan din ng housing program, ng housing projects na decent and affordable. So, and housing could be vertical and horizontal. So we all want to integrate all those laws and to come up with the National Housing Code of the Philippines that will address the different housing needs of different sectors.
Presumptive cause to the problem is urban migration, made worse by a decline in housing production due to a tedious regulatory and approval procedure, a heavy reliance on private sector investment, and insufficient funding for housing. In the same meeting, a number of priority bills were discussed and approved. On the same day, The House Committee on Agriculture and Food held an organizational meeting and immediately began discussing important bills for the rice industry. Led by its chairperson, Representative Mark Enverga, the Department of Agriculture presented the key challenges of the agri-fishery sector, such as the low productivity, delayed infrastructure development, and weak forward linkages, as well as growing impact of climate-related disasters. The committee also discussed the adverse effect of the enactment of RA 11203, also known as the Rice Tariffication Law, that, as per resource persons, significantly reduced the NFA's role to buffer stocking for emergencies, removing the agency's power in regulating market price and supply stabilization. Representatives from the agriculture sector aired sentiments on the worsening derailment caused by the law.
Simula po nang ipatupad ang Rice Tariffication Law noong February 2019, grabe ang epekto sa mga magsasaka ng palay, industriya ng bigas, at sa partikular, luging-lugi ang magsasaka. Pakinggan po namin si President Marcos, hindi naluluging magsasaka. Fake news, hindi po ito totoo. Kung nabili ng 8 to 10 pesos, kinuwenta po namin, lugi kami ng 28 to 32,000 pesos per hectare.
Accessible housing as well as food sufficiency remains an unsolved puzzle under the Marcos Jr. administration. Both problems that's been passed on from one administration to another that makes living difficult for many Filipinos. Mobile Journal Arles de los Santos, we are One News.
Here now is a quick rundown of more stories on One News. The Securities and Exchange Commission has fined Villar Land Holdings Corporation for its failure to file financial statements on time and for misleading disclosures. In an August 18 order, the SEC slapped the company and its directors with an administrative fine of 1 million pesos each, or an aggregate penalty of 12 million pesos with additional 2,000 pesos daily until they file the reports. They were likewise served with a 10-day show-cause order to explain why the firm's license should not be suspended. Among the directors listed are former Senate President Manny Villar and his children, Senators Mark and Camille Villar. Villar Land is also facing a separate SEC probe for alleged insider trading over its 1 trillion peso valuation. The House of Representatives has approved a resolution forming a joint committee to investigate infrastructure projects, including DPWH flood control projects. The inquiry will be conducted by the Committees on Public Accounts, Good Government and Public Accountability, and Public Works and Highways. The joint panel will be known as the House Infracom. COMELEC has announced the postponement of official ballot printing for the 2025 BARM parliamentary elections. The delay comes after the passage of a bill redistributing 7 parliamentary district seats originally allotted to SLU. The Commission said it will study the implications of the new measure before setting a new printing schedule. And 2 Chinese research vessels are reportedly operating near Bajo de Masinloc in the West Philippine Sea. According to maritime security expert Ray Powell, the Xiangyang Hong 10 arrived on August 15, while Zhuhai Yuan, an autonomous mothership capable of deploying over 50 drones, arrived on August 18. The Philippine Coast Guard has yet to confirm the matter. At this point, we give you a quick look at stories from our partners, the Philippine Star and Business World. On the Philippine Star, the headline reads, every 6 of 10 pesos earned by PAGCOR fund government projects and PhilHealth. That's according to PAGCOR's report, which also contained an income soar of more than 40% in 2024 at over 111 billion pesos. On Business World, the headline reads, Manila slumps to near bottom of smart cities list. BWorldOnline.com's lead went, Manila continued its downward slide in the latest global index of smart cities, even ranking last among select Asia-Pacific cities. The study was from the International Society for Urban Informatics. For more details of these stories, you can visit the social media pages of the Philippine Star and Business World. Do check out as well the social media platforms of One News PH for the very latest news.
This is still Afternoon Delight on One News. We just need to pause for another break. And we will be right back.
August 21st, 1991. In Moscow, a coup by hardline communists against Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev collapses. Leading the popular uprising against the coup plotters, Boris Yeltsin, president of the Russian Federation. Gorbachev returns to power, but the Soviet Union dissolves by the end of the year, effectively ending the Cold War. 1940. In Mexico City, Leon Trotsky, the exiled Russian revolutionary, dies after an assassin drives an ice pick into his skull. Soviet leader Joseph Stalin, Trotsky's longtime rival for power, is widely believed to have arranged the murder. 1831. In Virginia, Nat Turner leads a slave rebellion, hoping to spark a slave uprising in the South. Dozens of whites are killed before the violent revolt is quickly defeated. Turner is later captured, tried, and hanged. 1959. The American flag gets its 50th star as President Dwight Eisenhower signs an executive order proclaiming Hawaii a state. 1904. Count Basie, one of jazz music's greatest band leaders, is born in Red Bank, New Jersey. And 1938. Kenny Rogers, the country singer and songwriter with decades of hits, is born in Houston, Texas. Today in history, August 21st. Sophia Manos, The Associated Press.
Wala nang iba, kayo pa rin po yung nanonood ng Afternoon Delight. Siya po si Denise Tan, Lord de Vera po. At pakilala natin ating Delight of the Day.
The star of the show. Ang ating Delight for the Day ay Crispy Pata dahil ito daw ang request ng walang iba kundi si Mr. Manny Mugato. Favorite niya daw to.
Hindi ba natin pagbibigyan ng kahilingan ng nag-iisang at humihinga na Pulitzer Prize winner for international reporting? Tito Manny, maraming salamat. Napaligaya mo talaga si Denise Tan. Wala pa nga itong pagkain kanina, banggit lang. Ang saya-saya niya na eh. Lalong-lalo na, nung dumating yung kanin, hindi nyo nakita.
Oy, grabe ka.
Standing ovation si Denise
Pakita
Tan.
natin direct. Kausap ko yung kanin. Ayan.
Ayan,
Para
oh.
ito yung star. Ayan, nako.
Ayan, nako.
Ito yung di nila nakita. Bago pa mag-start yung show.
O, sinistema, minudo sa
May
Denise
hiniwa
Tan.
na ako para madaling tikman.
Kunyari, nahulog at, ay, my God, pagtitikim ako. Grabe yun, rinig na rinig ah.
Ito.
Naku, pwede mo ibenta yung video na yan. Saan mo kinuha yan? Si ilalim, oh.
Sa may buto.
Iyon, oh. Naririnig ko, my God.
Ang sarap niya.
Kasi, of course, ang ating minamahal na Pulitzer Prize winner and veteran journalist Manny Mogato ay magla-launch ng second edition ng kanyang autobiography. It's Me, Bok. Detailing itong, kumbaga, ang kanyang many years of his work in journalism. Para bigyan ng mukha ng balita at kumakain kami ng crispy pata, Mobile Journal, kaya na makantaan.
Pulitzer awardee and veteran journalist Manuel Mogato led the launch of the second edition of his book entitled It's Me Book at Ortigas Center, Pasig City last night. In his autobiographical memoir, Mogato highlighted more than 4 decades of experiences, adventures, and lessons learned from covering disasters, wars, insurgencies, and political events.
Second edition to, dinagdag ko na yung arrest ni dating Presidente Duterte and marami pang ibang details na sinama ko. Dahil hindi ko inaasahan na mahuhuli si Pangulong Duterte ng ganong kadali.
He said that he hopes his experiences will serve as a guide for the new generation of journalists. The event was attended by his close friends from the military, fellow journalists, and former colleagues. Also present was Defense Secretary Gilbert Bibocho Doro, who paid tribute to Bok Manny's colorful career and significant contributions to the field of journalism. He also mentioned how impactful Mogato's work was, not just to journalists, but also to future defense leaders.
Ine-encourage natin ang mga may karanasan at dalubhasa sa isang subject na isulat yung mga karanasan nila para may reference na gagamitin sa mga practitioners sa kinabukasan. Katulad nung kay Mr. Mogato, security yan. Importante na malaman mo kung hindi lang ano ang desisyon na nangyari, ngunit bakit nangyari, ano yung nangyayari noon para hindi cut and paste yung mangyari.
A short panel talk was also held with Glenda Gloria of Rappler, Perhel Santos of CMFR, and attorney Dana Patnak, where they discussed the challenges facing journalists today compared to their time. Mobile journalist Kayla Makantan, We Are One News.
Congratulations, Tito Manny.
Congrats! Abangan natin yung
Mabilis lang yan.
nga nung libro na yun.
Second edition. Tulong lang tayo, third edition. Ano kayang masasama pa doon sa kanyang autobiography, no?
Okay. Sige.
Nga pala, belated happy birthday, Tito Manny Mogato.
Ay, belated happy birthday po!
Ka-birthday niya si Quezon. August 19, no?
Okay, happy birthday! Sige, ngayon naman, daanan na natin ang ating mga storya on social media. First one on the Philippine Star. First edition, Nolly emerges first Philippine corruption expose. Amid the shocking revelations of billion-peso graft in ghost and substandard flood control projects, a rare first edition of the Nolly Metangre has come to light. Jose Rizal, after all, was the country's first whistleblower, and the Nolly, the first Filipino expose of public corruption. This important volume will be auctioned off at the Leon Gallery Magnificent auction on September 13, 2025 in its Makati sales room.
First edition, printed abroad, of course, ano? At meron pa palang dedication to Trinidad Pardo de Tavera. So, interesting yan at abangan natin. Alam mo, kung meron lang akong flood control project money, ibilhin ko yan. Alright.
Ang ating susunod na storya on the Philippine Star still. An explainer on quiet cracking and how it can be fixed.
Quiet cracking?
Quiet cracking. So, not so long ago, may tinawag tayong quiet quitting. Yung quiet quitting daw, yan yung parang, di ba, yan yung you go to work, you don't really do your job well, you go with the flow, you don't want to make and exert extra effort. Pero ito, yung quiet cracking, it's more of you show up, you still do the best that you can, but deep inside, you're struggling. Kumbaga parang you're just doing it dahil wala kang choice. Yun daw
Parang yun
yung...
ang kwento ng buhay ko.
Ganun ba? Oo, ito daw yan.
Yung stoicism yan eh. Diba? Pero ano ba ang... dapat ba ang cracking ay maingay? Paano ba?
Well, what they're encouraging actually is para hindi mo solohin is dapat magkaroon ng healthy environment in your work area, tipong may kausapin ka, or it's important daw for the organization or the management to have those check-ins. The simpleng, how are you, how have you been doing, para naman daw hindi nababottle up at hindi basta-basta bumibigay mag-isa yung empleyado.
Eh paano kung yung management at yung mga katrabaho ang source ng stress?
Ako, medyo mahirap yan. Pero syempre, ano?
Mag-abroad na lang sila.
Pwede silang mag-abroad. Isa yun sa mga storya dapat natin. Pero ito, pag-usapan muna natin, very, very interesting project. Smart has partnered with leading streaming services including Signal Play, Viva One, and VMX to expand digital content for its subscribers. Smart Chief Operating Officer Boy Martirez said the collaboration aims to democratize content by making it easily accessible on mobile phones at affordable prices. Signal Play's Gerard Milan noted that users can conveniently access the apps through either prepaid or postpaid plans. In addition, Smart launched a pluggable eSIM that allows users to manage multiple connections on a single device.
Democratizing content has two features: technology and compelling content. We made sure that our subscribers can watch it live, on demand, on a mobile phone, at democratized prices.
It's a very strategic partnership with Smart to allow customers to be able to access itong mga apps natin, particularly itong Signal Play, no? Using their load or charge it to their postpaid bill. So it will really make it easier and more accessible for more Filipinos to access all of the content that we have on Signal Play.
Nako, binabati po natin ang lahat ng nanonood ng Afternoon Delight while live streaming Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok na hindi matitikman ang crispy pata ni Denise Tan. Sino yan?
Ha? Meron dito kasi sabi hindi ko daw siya pinapansin. Hindi ko na po nababasa lahat ng ng names every day. Okay, pero ito,
Nagbago ka na raw. Nagbago ka na.
Hindi, pero sabi niya sa akin, what's wrong with you, girl? Ganon.
Ikaw talaga, no?
Oo.
Ako nalang papansin sa'yo kung sino ka man. Ano pangalan niya?
Teka, si Raymond Bartolay. May ano pa.
Raymond Bartolay.
Oo.
Sensya na. Ganyan talaga yan.
Hello! Hindi kasi ako naka-premium, di ba? Diba lagi mo ko inaasar?
Kawawa naman.
Oo.
Saan nila pwedeng padala yung pera?
John Satilieses, of course, buwabati sa atin. Digital Wampom, good afternoon. Ojat Wenceslao, magandang hapon din daw. Sabi ni Marion Laja, ito, sakto nag-comment. Super mahal ng Richard Mill, pero personally, hindi ako nagagandahan. Pwede i-sequester yung kay ganyan ka-corrupt? Marlon, okay, Manalo, nanonood din sa atin.
Hello, Marlon.
Hello,
Mike
Alex
Policarpio.
Fuentes. O, Tito Mike. Okay. Immigration, okay. Let there be light, mabuhay po ang bansang Pilipinas. Sabi niya, si Julius Kayabyab. Good afternoon po.
Professor Julius.
Hello! Literal na tumataas ang blood pressure ko kahapon dahil sa flood control project. Sana maraming managot.
Uy, sa mga taga-La Union po, kung kayo... Nga pala, no?
Ano?
Opo, sa Peppercorn Bar sa Sabado po. DJ set, ang inyong lingkod.
Yan. JC Alvarez, sana saan recommended nyong kainan o resto para umorder ng crispy pata?
Nako.
Ako wala ko masyadong alam.
Kano budget mo?
Magkano daw ang budget mo, JC?
May binibilan ako sa QC sa pang-analisas, pero wala silang Grab delivery. Kailangan pumunta ko.
Puntahan mo. Ver Marquez, nanonood kaming lahat. Buong pamilya niya. Ay, hello po, Ver Marquez and family. At shout out naman kay Jan with double N. Watching from Dagupan City.
Hello sa mga taga-Dagupan.
Okay.
And that'll do it for us.
This Thursday, August 21. Thank you for watching Afternoon Delight. Ako po si Denise Tan.
Join us again Bukas, alas 2 en punto. Ako po si Lourdes Vera. Siya po si Denise Tan. Ito ang Crispy Pata. At distinct. Distinct is actually beautiful. Mabuhay tayong lahat. Yeah.